I've been promising you this, that here this scene with Lot's daughters is supposed to be reminiscent of the flood. Let me start to tease out a little bit of that. In the flood, obviously, it's a cataclysmic disaster, and I'm not going to get into a local flood, global flood. You guys go fight about that on your own. I'm not doing that. But at least it's a flood that destroys it. God takes away his protection, and there's just utter destruction. Same thing here, utter destruction that's going on here. So that's one aspect of it, and that's probably not enough. And as a side note, let me point out that it's the Gospel of Luke who actually marries these two scenes together. When he talks about the second coming, the Son of Man, when he comes on his chariot, on his horses as he descends, this very apocalyptic imagery, Second Temple Judaism, says when they do it, he recounts, it will be like in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. So St. Luke's already kind of marrying these two scenes together. So a lot of wonderful modern scholarship in doing a literary reading here have now made that connection thoroughly. They see all of the nods to the flood scene going through here. But St. Luke had already found those connections just in the raw apocalypticism of it all. So there's clearly a connection, at least from the first century here. So what are these other countries? And Lot came up from Zoar and settled in the high country. Notice, he didn't want to go to the high country. Now he sees the destruction and he's thinking, it may be safer in the high country than what it is here. His two daughters together with him, for he was afraid to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelled in a certain cave, he and his two daughters. And the elder said to the younger, our father is old, he and his two daughters. Our daughter is old, and there is no man on earth to come to bed with us, like the way of all the earth. Come, let us give our father wine to drink, and let us lie with him, so that we may keep alive seed from our father. All right. So, first thing, I think we have to tie this into the Noah scene. These are children. Of course, they're going to get their own father drunk, and in the oral tradition, in Talmud, Lot is very much known for his enjoyment of wine. And of course, they're picking it up from this scene in particular. So one, there is going to be wine that's there. Notice that they think, which seems pretty commonsensical, they think the entire world has been destroyed. They think that this is a cataclysm. They're looking around going, there are no men. How are we going to continue the human race? Which is precisely what we get from Noah. And anytime you get a paradigm, and I think a lot of the Hebrew Bible follows this paradigm of exile and return. We've talked about this before. If you have an exile and return, there's an exile. There always has to be a small remnant who comes back for the return. And I'm thinking in particular, that's one of the most important events in Jewish history is in fact the Babylonian exile, where it's a small remnant that leaves. And I think our writers have that in mind. So what do you get with Noah? They're on the ark. It's a small remnant. And from them, what's going to come? More people. That's what the daughters are thinking about here. So that's sort of remnant logic. So we have drinking. We have remnant logic. They think that it was a completely global destruction. And again, I'm not talking about global and local flooding. They think everything's just been wiped out. So we have that connection. Then the other connection we have here is obviously sexual sin. I had talked previously about what the violation against Noah was. And I threw out that in scholarship, there are some allusions, some scholars buy that there may have been some sort of sexual sin committed against Noah by his son. It may be playing off that. I don't know. With the Noah episode, I still don't know that I buy into the sexual transgression, even though I pointed out to you, if that's a retelling of the garden episode, and the garden episode was in fact about some sort of sexual carnal knowledge, or at least that's part of it, then you get it again in the Noah episode. Here you see it one more time with these daughters. So all sorts of connections that are there for us. And they gave their father wine to drink that night, and the elder came and lay with her father. And he knew not when she lay down or when she arose. So here he is, completely out one more time. Oh, and let me mention back on verse 32, when she says, "Come, let us give our father wine to drink, and let us." Here's just a simple line: "Let us lie with him." The word there, shakab. Shakab is just a very coarse word for sexual relations. It's almost immediate. So in Genesis 39, when we get there, Potiphar's wife just bluntly tells Joseph, "Come lie with me." In 2 Samuel, is it 2 Samuel 13, when Amnon rapes Tamar, he uses the same language, "Come lie." So here is this very coarse utilitarian language that the daughters are using on Lot, which seems to me, of course it's horrific. So don't mishear me here. It's horrific, sinful, incestuous, god-awful. Nevertheless, there's something poetic about this. The father who is willing to give his daughters to a mob, to know them, to do with them however they so like, turns them into sexual objects. There is some sort of a poetic reversal, which is very typical in biblical narrative. There's a poetic reversal here to say, find their sexual objects. Now what are they doing? They're treating their father as a sexual object. Even there it says, "And he knew not." He's so out of it, she can just treat him as that sexual object. The way in which he imagined the mob would treat his daughters.